After an ocean of mixed opinions surfaced the internet following the 2022 NBA All-Star Weekend, the association's best and its fans are buckling up for the second half of the season, where every court becomes a battlefield and every win matters twice as much. Good evening and welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Juan Mendez alongside McLaughlin and Carlos Garcia. Prior to the beginning of the season, two basketball giants, the LA Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets, were amongst the top teams in the league on paper. Now, Matt, I'll start with you. What does the future hold for these teams?
Well, for the Lakers and the Nets, I see both of these teams finishing in the play-in tournament, surprisingly. Where they go from there, I can't really make a prediction because the play-in tournament, anything can happen, similar to like the NFL wildcard playoff, whatever. Kyrie Irving is probably the biggest question mark. Thankfully for Kyrie, the Sixers got James Harden. But his status is still up in the air regarding playoff time. He's only got a handful of games remaining that he can play on the road. And as of right now, he's not going to be able to play at home in New York. That's going to be huge if Brooklyn has to go into the playoffs routinely on the road in big game moments, and KD's really the only guy there. For the Lakers, Russell Westbrook needs to go. I don't know what Frank Vogel needs to put him away into a cave, something. Let him work out his aggressions on his own. Send him to Siberia. I don't know. But he's not helping this team at all. Charles Barkley said it best. This roster would be great in 2010, 2011. Not in 2022. And LeBron complaining about this roster makeup as if he didn't have anything to do about it is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't see LeBron, even with a fully healthy Anthony Davis, somehow carrying this team far into a conference finals or a title, because that's a stage of the career that LeBron is in where he wants to win titles as much as he can. And he's already put the Lakers front office on notice with the I'm going to play for whatever team drafts Bronny take. We'll see, but I don't see these teams just too hampered by injuries and question marks going very far this year.
I'll keep it short with the Brooklyn Nets. It's going to come down to whether Kyrie Irving is able to play in Brooklyn, right? We see that the New York mask mandate is still in effect and the vaccine mandate. So if he's able to play, the Nets are in good hands, right? Obviously, Kevin Durant's coming back from an injury, so they'll have him, and they'll have Ben Simmons too. So I think the Brooklyn Nets, they won't be in the play-in tournament just because they'll be higher than the 7th seed. I think that getting KD back, getting Ben Simmons, and if Kyrie Irving's able to come back, I think they'll be in good hands. Now, with the Lakers, they're right now sitting at the 10th seed, and it's really disappointing. They're on the verge of not making the play-in tournament, but I think they'll sneak in as a 10 or 9. In LeBron James, whenever it comes time for big games and his playoff career, I think you really can't bet against him in the playoffs. So when it comes to playoff time, LeBron's doing everything and anything he can to help this team right now. He's averaging 29, 8, and 6 on the season. As you mentioned, he's had those issues with Russell Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, and some of those other guys. But I think when it comes time to LeBron and what he needs to cement his legacy as one of the greatest players of all time, I think he's going to do anything and everything in his power to get the Lakers into the play-in tournament and possibly make a deep run in the postseason.
But we've already seen this from LeBron before. Remember those finals with the Warriors? He would put up 50 points, 40 points, outrageous stat lines. Is that going to be enough? I don't see it happening, but I respect my coworkers' take here.
There we go. There's always a lot going on with those two teams and some of the biggest names in the sport. Now, there are multiple teams making unexpected appearances at the top of the table in both the Eastern and the Western Conference. And as we know, the NBA playoffs are the perfect scenario for some of these higher seeds to prove themselves. But as always, the results may vary. Carlos, I'm going to start with you. Which team do you think will come up short during postseason play?
Well, the Memphis Grizzlies right now, they're sitting at 3rd in the Western Conference, and they're led by Ja Morant, who's in the running for MVP candidate, right? And the Grizzlies are a great team, but when you look at regular season success, that doesn't translate to postseason success. In all of their losses, the Grizzlies have been statistically worse in points, rebounds, assists, field goal percentage, and three-point percentage. Now, you might be saying, of course, if you lose, you probably won't score as many points as the other team. But in their losses, they've just been flat out bad. They've had big losses, and they've given up a lot of big leads on the road and at home. So I think come playoff time, this team really doesn't have the playoff experience. They made it last year in the playoffs as the 8th seed through the play-in tournament. But other than that, they got obliterated by the Utah Jazz. They won the first game, and then they gave up 4 after that knocked them out of the playoffs. So I think the lack of experience in the postseason with these guys, I think that's going to be the ultimate factor of why they're not going to make a deep run, even though they're the 3 seed right now in the West.
I'm going to switch to the Miami Heat. Now, I know they're the top of the conference, but injuries have come back to bite this team before in playoff situations. What was the big storyline coming out of that bubble run? Was Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo getting injured deep into the playoffs? Are they going to be around? Kyle Lowry has also not been in the lineup consistently. Jimmy Butler, same thing. Bam Adebayo has also struggled with injuries. Duncan Robinson, his three-point percentages have consistently gone down the last couple of years, including this year. He's a guy that needs to get his shots and be efficient, most importantly. And Victor Oladipo's coming back, but what's that going to do? It just adds another body that Eric Spoelstra has to figure out in a rotation that's pretty crowded when it comes to guards. And that's one of Miami's biggest strong suits is their depth. But does another body really add that much more to it? And Oladipo's a guy, he was averaging 20 with Indiana. He's going to be looking for his shots. He's going to be looking for his looks. And does that create some discord and some resentment in the locker room? I don't think so because it's a Pat Riley team. But come playoff time, you know he's going to want the ball. And Jimmy Butler is not going to be a guy that's going to overtly always go to his teammates all the time and be the most, shall we say, relaxed teammate in these type of situations.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of storylines for those two teams. So then, who is coming for this title? You know, a few familiar faces may come to mind, but this season has been a genuine uncertainty. With that being said, Matt, who is the biggest sleeper team in the NBA right now and a true contender for the Larry O'Brien Championship Trophy?
Oh, the number 3 seed in the Western Conference, the Memphis Grizzlies. They're doing everything that a contender needs to do. They're 22-10 on the road. They're 20-10 at home. That's incredible. Ja Morant is a legit MVP candidate. In my mind, it's Joel Embiid, DeMar DeRozan in Chicago, and Ja Morant is the top 3 MVP candidates. I'm putting a lot of emphasis on that V for valuable here. Ja Morant against the Chicago Bulls, what does he do? He drops 46. This is a breakout year similar to what Derrick Rose did with the Chicago Bulls in 2010, 2011 when he was the youngest to win MVP. With Grizzlies, I just feel like they're so gritty. Of course, grit and grind teams, they always hold a special place in my heart. But they're always tough, they're always physical, and Jared Jackson, I think, is going to pick up his shooting rhythm once he gets more reps and gets more consistent into the playoffs. And this is a team that's steadily improved their results. I know you mentioned the play-in tournament result, finishing as the 8th seed and getting obliterated by the Jazz, but they've consistently been ahead of track compared to other rebuilds. So I'm excited about this Grizzlies team, and I think they're going to catch a lot of squads by surprise.
Well, if I told you guys that the #1 team in the East would be a sleeper, you'd look at me and laugh. But I think the Miami Heat are a sleeper when it comes to playoff time because of the narratives around them. ESPN put out an article about a month ago saying there were 6 true contenders for the Larry O'Brien Trophy. The Heat were not one of them. Instead, they were labeled in the same category as the Lakers as, quote, dangerous loomers. If you look at both of those teams where they're at right now, LA's might not make it into the play-in tournament, and Miami's sitting at the top of the East. So you mentioned the injuries that Miami has had that plagued them. In the 61 games of the season so far, Bam Adebayo has been out 36 and Jimmy Butler has been out 24. But it doesn't matter because Miami has always found its way and they pride themselves on having that Heat culture. Guys are easily put into the lineup and they can replace guys, and that's a reason Miami shows that they can win without their S-tier players, without guys like Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Kyle Lowry. So the fact that they're sitting at the top of the East with having a lot of injuries and having different guys, G League guys, two-way contracts being put into the lineup, it shows the validity. It shows that if Miami's healthy come playoff time, the East and the rest of the league better be on notice because this team may be a sleeper in terms of storylines and narratives, but Miami's coming for it all, and they're coming for vengeance after all the Bubble Boy, the Tyler Hero narratives. Miami's coming for blood, and the rest of the league better be on notice.
Oh, this is where the shovel comes out. I totally agree. If they're healthy, yes, they're a legitimate contender. But you can't rely on them to be healthy. Who are you going to rely on? The Martin twin? I don't know which one's on the team at this point. Who else? Omari Yurtseven? Caruth? Who? Like, you're going to rely on G League players and two-way guys, plus Kyle Lowry and maybe some other quality starters to carry this team. If Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo go down, it's outrageous. I get it. The Grizzlies have question marks. You could come at me for my take on that. But with Miami, health is always a big issue, and you always got to account for injuries, and I don't think Miami's going to be prepared for that.
As we see, there's lots and lots of substance on this topic here. That is why the NBA playoffs, they're set to begin on April 16, but until then, the second half of the season will show who is ready to perform on the biggest stage. It all gets tougher from here. That will do it for this edition of Penn State Sports Night. For Matt McLaughlin and Carlos Garcia, I'm Juan Mendez, and have a great night.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you are going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.